Oh,
Ah, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where everyone is in the world today. Happy to be here again on this beautiful Friday. Well, afternoon for me, morning for Laura.
yes.
Before we do get started, Laura and myself were just chatting very briefly, and we'd just like to express how our thoughts and prayers are going out to everyone currently in Florida, picking up the pieces after Hurricane Ian, which has what's the word you used,
Yeah.
Laura? Just
Devastated.
reshaped a lot of people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah, literally just it's redesigning the 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 landscape of many parts of Florida. It really is.
Mm,
However, I just want to add, I was talking with my husband about this, and as sad and heartbreaking and the stress levels of all around this, two things. It does recreate and re-engineer and redesign newness, and those things are important. Even though it has wiped out a lot of people, it again reminds us what is important, and that is the community and the compassion that we show each other, and the helping hand. And whether it's carrying
mm,
an elderly person through the water, or it's donating money so that you can sponsor a family and get them in a hotel and food, and it really does remind us that this division and separation with all of us on many levels for many reasons is so unnecessary. And when it really comes down to it, how we stand side by side and help our fellow human, um,
yeah.
you know,
And I think we've said this before. If only we could carry that through everyday life, because this is when the human spirit really gets to shine out. As you
yeah,
say, when people are just helping other people, regardless of race, creed,
yeah,
belief system, anything. It's just we're all humans in the same predicament together. And I think maybe if we held on to that a little bit more, realizing that through everyday life, even when things are going good, right, we're still just humans having the same experience together.
and it can
So,
happen to any one of us at any given moment. And
absolutely.
and that's the thing, we lose that connection to ourselves and to the oneness of our globe. We don't
Mm,
realize that at any moment, any one of us, it could be a storm, a tree in a house, it could be a devastating, hurricane, tornado, flood, what act of God, act of Mother Nature, um, whatever it may be, and any one of us could and be in that position. And I think that's what we lose sight of. And then we get into these petty experiences with one another over politics or over religion. And I had to write, I'll share with everyone, I had to write a chapter in a book for a friend of mine, and it's all around awareness in believing. And I wrote about the empowerment of belief. And, I wrote about that we really came in this world as individuals, right? We come in almost on our own on some level, and then immediately we're brought into a family, whatever that may look like. And then we lose it throughout. We lose connections, and we fight and we argue and we get into these negative mindsets and these patterns, behaviors. And then something like this hits close to home, and you realize, like, you know like what is it all for, if not for the greater good, if not for the soul's evolution, if not for the experience of coming together, then what was it for? So I hope that, as you said, heartfelt thoughts and prayers, and everyone that has to rebuild rebuilds, in a way that brings a gratitude of being alive and unharmed. And certainly, when they go out in the world, there are now a few million people that might think twice, right, about getting in the front of the line and rushing in for that parking spot, and all those little moments in life where what they've been through now, they just let others go and they show that gratitude. And that's
Mm.
my thought that I'm putting out to the world, that energy today, that it has a meaning of gratitude and kindness behind the devastation, that something that's rebuilt comes out in a very positive way.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And interestingly, as you were saying all of that, I kind of thought, and please tell me if this is a bit of a reach, but I kind of feel like that all those sentiments really fit in with our topic for today. Now, for those of you that don't know, we're talking today about the whole package, which is our podcast all around wellness and holistic wellness specifically. So we normally talk about fitness and nutrition and all the rest of it, but today, Laura said what you really wanted to talk about was the first step, which is the mindset.
Mhm.
And as you were saying all these things about, how we progress through our lives and how we evolve as people, and how an act of God can literally upend everything that we knew to be real and knew to be true. And suddenly you go in with this new mindset of gratitude and
Mm.
compassion for everyone around you, and how that in and of itself starts to create this wonderful little pocket of evolved humanity, essentially.
Mm.
And as you were saying all of that, I couldn't help but think, wouldn't it be nice if we expressed that exact same compassion, that exact same level of gratitude inwardly towards ourselves as we're
Mm.
progressing through life, as we're trying to live a holistically good life for ourselves?
Mm.
Because I mean, I approached today's episode from a very, very physical standpoint. I was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. Little changes in life, and cut out this and cut out that, and maybe drink a little bit less so that you don't crave fatty foods. Yes, I get it.
Right.
But then as you were saying all of that, I was going, well, actually, no, because if I just was living in full gratitude all the time for the life that I've been given, plus compassion inwardly towards myself,
Yeah.
automatically I'm going to start making better choices without even thinking about it, without it being a chore, without having to stick to an eating plan or, you know, make sacrifices or anything like that. It would just be a case of, well, no, I want to feed my body what feels good mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically. I want to
Right.
do all the things for myself that makes it feel good, which in turn, and coming back to the point that I raised in the other, yeah, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, please go. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say that brings into what you said in your book about, you have to fill your own cup first, and once you do that, then it's so easy to shine your lights out into the world. Then it's so easy to let your cup runneth over. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that, I guess.
And this is something that for some reason, I really do believe that we come into this world knowing this somewhere.
Mm,
And I know people might be like, well, how can that be? A 1 hour baby soul can't know this, but I do. I personally, through research and just speaking with people around the world, new thought creators, and how we look at, ancient technology, ancient, history, and bringing it in with, modern sciences, whether it's of mind, of emotion. And there's something innate in us. And I've said this before, and I write about it in the book, that I believe within our DNA, how science and people in general say we have, 95% of you is junk DNA, and we only live at, a 5% level, or whatever the percentage is. Some people even say it's 3%. I do think part of that is true. I don't think for most of us, we spend a lifetime not tapping in to the
mm,
wholeness of who we are. But I do believe that coded within the DNA is the genius of the universe, is the
oh,
potential to
absolutely.
tap in to the actual energy that creates worlds. And however that lands within your ear and within your instinct. But think about this. When we look at the human condition, there are people. And yes, we have Einsteins and, Tesla, and, we have all of these, giants that have really shown, Graham Bell and all of that, Ben Franklin, etc., George Washington, however you look at all of it. But they really aren't any different than we are. They just opened up some part of their mind to connect to what creation and vision and manifestation looks like. They just studied it more than we, meaning we, the average
Yeah.
person. They looked at it differently. And if everyone that hears this would just look at the environment of your home here within,
Mhm.
and then maybe your home, how you live, or your apartment, whatever it is, a flat, a brownstone, could be a tree hut somewhere beautiful on a beautiful island. But look within self. And you just said something so perfectly. When we connect to that part within, everything else will flow, and it does. It's the resistance to the flow that causes the stress, causes the weight gain, causes the alcoholism, causes the patterns of
Yep.
fighting and not getting along with our partners. It isn't our natural state. Our natural state is whole and complete and beautiful and perfect. It's all the patterns and the algorithms of disruption that we've welcomed in because we weren't necessarily raised and taught, and no blame to anyone. It's just the way the condition is playing out, to think other than that. Well, it's just normal that, we fight, or my grandfather was an alcoholic, my father was an alcoholic, that's why I'm an alcoholic. Or my mother had breast cancer, oh no, I'm susceptible to it. We put this mindset in, and then the biology and the cells actually feel the vibration of thought. And then that causes them to go into stress mode. Then they start messaging one another, and then things are created within the internal environment, which is why I'm so excited as we grow this whole package podcast, because this really is going to be about, yes, talking about phenomenal products and supplements and meditation and all of it, planting a garden, whatever we may discuss. But if it is not spoken about within first and cultivated within first,
Mhm.
here, none
Sorry.
of that is going to come out. Oh, excuse us. We have a call coming in from the
Apologies. Yeah.
universe. They're letting us know we're on the right track.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. Um, I honestly thought I'd put that on mute. Apologies. But yes, you're absolutely right. That is the key here, is that all that conversation needs to first start happening within before it can start going outward, right? And that, I think, is just so important. To I want to actually share an experience and a talk that I heard once, and please forgive me because I can't remember who it was who said this. It was an Indian guru who he did a panel in the States, and the question that was posed to him was, how much should we eat on a daily basis? Because he's well known of, he only eats like once a day and he has a very small meal. And he says, well, it's completely up to you. He says each person is different. He says, but the reason why him personally doesn't need to eat as much, and bearing in mind he's not emaciated, okay, this man is, I won't say obese, but he's definitely not what we would call slim and trim, right? He's a little bit overweight, even though he eats so little every day. And he just says that the reason that that's all he needs and his body then stays at a homeostatic level is because he's at a point where he's done away with so many of the blockages internally, the stresses, the societal pressures, the I must do this, I must do that, that he doesn't require all that extra energy to keep fighting, because he's not fighting anymore. He's just going with the flow. And I remember hearing this and going, sounds like nonsense. I bet he gets off that stage and has a whole bag of crisps. But my cynical side aside, I then as you know, I enjoy working out and looking after myself to a certain degree. I fall off the wagon and get back on fairly regularly, and I'm getting better at staying on it. That being said, though, what I find so interesting is when I was looking my absolute best, I was not following an eating plan prescribed by a nutritionist. I was not working out 3, 4, 5 times a day. I was literally eating when my body told me it was hungry. I was eating what my body told me it wanted, not what I thought I wanted. Okay.
Mhm.
So, for instance, if I was like, oh, I could really murder a pizza right now,
Mhm.
I'd look inside and go, actually, what do I really want? Oh, I actually want a few slices of pineapple. Interesting.
Right.
Cool. I'll have that. Started to do that for a bit, and then exercise became easy. I would actually want to do yoga. I would want to go to the park to do my calisthenics. I would want to go to the gym and lift heavy weights, but it would be as and when my body felt necessary. I bring that up because literally that constant internal dialogue that was happening, where I was checking in with my body, checking in with my soul. What do I actually want right now? Not what I think I want. What do I actually want? And it was so incredible how everything just started to fall into place. My health was probably the best it's ever been. I was getting complimented left and right about what my physique was looking like, even though that was not the goal, right? So I was not training and eating healthy because I wanted attention or wanted to look a certain way. I was just doing it because that was what I wanted to show compassion to myself.
Yeah. This is such an important story because this really is about, well, almost again, bringing this around to what we were talking about, the body, however you want to look at it. So if, you're into the science part, if you're into the mindset part, if you're into the spiritual, religious, however you want to look at everything that we express, just take the words and then if you need to recalibrate them into
Mm,
what feels correct for you, but the message is what's at the foundation, and that is to create a whole lifestyle, and that is mind, body, consciousness. And again, you can fill in your words, but when you listen to that inner being, that inside voice, that connection, it will tell you. And it for me, so we had this talk the other day. I was in with a group of people and we were talking about that. Some people were like, well, what is consciousness? And what is that voice that you almost can feel and sometimes sense it's observing you, right? And you're observing it. Like, what is that? And when I said, what difference does it make at the moment? What happens if you just let it be and knew that it was some kind of internal GPS system, right? I write about this in the Science of Empowerment, an
yeah.
internal mapping system that either was a bit rusty, we lost the key, the switch doesn't quite spark it correctly. Whatever it was, we've lost the connection, but it's there. It's always been there. It's always going to stay there. And through a new mindset, through an excitement about reestablishing a deeper connection with self. What happens if you did this and everything shifted? Everything shifted. The way that you ate, the way that you moved your body, the way that you handled family dynamics, the passion that you would go after your dream
Mm,
career. What happens if just everything? So we were talking, and then people were adding in, some were playing, the devil's advocate here. Well, and they started coming up with all the resistance and all the blocks. And I just kept staying within that positive mindset. Okay, let's take that block. Let's recalibrate that into the wellness, the wholeness of who you are. And by the end of the conversation, they were in a much more receptive state because they understood that all they were doing was tapping into the pattern of limiting mind thinking.
mm,
That's all they were doing. They just kept letting the mind tell them that's limited, that can't be done, that's too hard, that's difficult. Well, I've never done it that way. Well, who says? And I just kept softening the resistance, right? Through the mind, through the thought. Well, what if you were a powerful being? Suspend that resistance for a moment. Now, what would you do? And you can see the face would light up, the body would shift, the excitement would come. And I said, you feel that? That's how it can be. It really can be that way throughout your days. And I want to share quickly. I had a client yesterday, and I, of course, won't get into any of the details, but they suffered a great loss recently through an accident, a tragic accident. And we were talking about how do you create a new life after your life has just been absolutely shifted. Um, and again, I had to work through this process carefully with deep compassion. But at the end of our session, the beam of smile and glow that came out of inside, the reconnection to knowing that she has the potential and the capability to recreate, even from tragedy, recreate a life of happiness, of fulfillment. And it wasn't this overwhelming, daunting journey. It was slow down, begin to think differently, and tap into the creative part that is in us. And if we choose those resistant states, those contracted states of thinking, and we push them over for a moment, and we go after something again with the mind of a creator, the mind of a genius, the mind of an engineer, right? Engineering, redesigning, what would we accomplish? And when you bring someone through that moment, that exercise, that process, they start to realize I can think differently. Therefore, I can become a different type of human being. I don't have to stay connected to this present condition. And I write about that right at the very beginning, the first chapter. Regardless of your present, right, circumstance or condition, you absolutely have what is needed to redesign a new life, a life of wellness, of wholeness, through nutrition, through education, through new knowledge, new sciences, new desires to live a life that isn't riddled with weight, sadness, past history, alcohol, drug addiction. There are ways to really recreate and live a life of fulfillment and happiness.
So I was going to ask a question, but I think I'm going to pose it as a statement instead, based on what you just said. Because a lot of times my clients would say to me, Stefan, it's easy for you to say that it all comes down to mindset, but that hasn't been my experience. And I would say to them, well, actually, it has been your experience.
Yeah.
Your life up to now has been created by your mindset.
Yeah.
What I think happens a lot of times, myself included, when I first started down this whole journey with mindset and just changing how I perceive the world, was I'd go, well, nothing's changing, so it obviously doesn't work, right? Only to then realize over time, of course, that sure, but that's because your whole life has been built on a mindset of the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years, however long you've been in that paradigm, right? So now you're making a shift. You've got one tiny layer of the onion stacked on this whole other onion that your existence has to compete with, right? Because your subconscious knows what your mindset has been like for the past however long. So that shift into a new paradigm requires a certain level of mental dedication. And once you do start to see the results, it's quite intoxicating, because then you start to realize, good heavens, I really am the master of my own destiny.
Yeah.
And that's both scary and exhilarating all at the same time.
Yeah.
Because then you start to get scared, because, well, the sky's the limit in terms of what I'm able to create and what I'm able to do. But
Woo!
coming back to indeed, indeed,
I
indeed.
love it.
But coming back to the physical side of things, with the just the wellness and all of that, and there's been so many studies done on this about people who think themselves healthy. You
Yeah.
had that example last week of your brother's client who
Yeah.
literally through mindset was able to walk again after a what was it, a C3 fracture
Yeah, complete from paralyzed neck down,
from
and
neck
was
down. Yeah.
told he had about, I think it was like a 2.8% chance of ever moving, not even walking, just moving from the neck down. And worked with my brother, and it, and you and I both know what this feels like. We've been on both sides of this. We know what it's like to really be in a state of determination to not move forward. That's impossible. That can't be. This is the way it's always been. Like
Yep.
we understand that. And it's not that when you create this new way of thinking, this new way of being, that you're not um, exposed to new challenges and new contrast and the negative and positive flow of life. This is about, and I love that mental discipline. That's so beautiful. It's about opening up your sensory to not think that we only have, taste, smell, sight, feel, whatever. What's our other sensory here? See, taste,
Taste,
smell,
touch, smell,
touch,
see, and hear.
and hear. Thank you. Yes. See, right there. I forgot. Um, so we we have so much more at our fingertips, but it's just we have to believe. And when you were talking before, and you and I've talked about this too, there's going to be a lag time. So we're
Yeah.
in this mode of being wherever we are. You could be 13, 15, 25, 75, it doesn't matter, right? We're just in our flow of patterns. That's all we are. We're algorithms of patterns, and then those patterns become behaviors. So it just becomes, we don't even think about it. Now we want to go in and tap into this new exploration. We want to become, right, a gatherer of knowledge, a gatherer of information. We want to tap into the inner power of what it is to advance and to
Mhm.
think for thyself, to create for thyself. But then there's that mindset that we've carried with us, like you said, all along. The key, the skill to learn and refine is to know that the old thinking will seep in, because that is past. To hold steady, right? Be steadfast in the new mindset. And then eventually the physicality, the biology, the new algorithm, the new pattern, and the new behavior will catch up to the thought. Now, hear me. If we were capable of thinking a thought and turning it into a thing, a manifested reality within moments, our world would implode. We cannot handle the exchange of thought into manifestation the
We
way
cannot.
our mind thinks we should be able to. We physically, spiritually, globally could not do that. We're not um, we are not engineered at that moment, at that level of frequency. So
We're not
understand,
disciplined enough yet.
no, we haven't calibrated our own vibration.
Yeah.
Um, we can't match thought and manifestation that quickly, yet we can, because when the mind is in that state of knowing, and we start preparing the body. So for instance, let's say I'm 50 pounds overweight and I've got, high blood pressure, cholesterol, all of this, but I'm thinking lean, I'm thinking healthy, I'm thinking freedom in my body, the mobility and the flexibility. Of course, I can't wake up in 24 hours and be in that state. We haven't grown into that level of advancement at the moment. However, we all understand if we start drinking more water, sleeping well, taking walks, going for hikes, connecting to nature and the sun and the warmth or the coolness of the fall, we start preparing beautiful, foods, we start to recalibrate the connection between thought and energy. And that's where the cells and the biology start to feel the new vibration of the food and the water and the softness again of the resistance of it. And then 7 days go by, 14 days, 21, an entire month. We start to see how we're shedding the old patterns, how we're dissolving
Yep.
the old algorithms, how the new mindset is now starting to do this 360. Mind, body, consciousness is all starting to vibrate within the same environment. That's what you have to hold on to. Don't get discouraged when the thought and the desire are not aligning at the moment. Give yourself time to enjoy the journey of feeling what that connection, that whole human connection is becoming. That's what sparks the algorithm in place.
So I know I say this, or we say this all the time, but I swear to God, Laura and myself did not talk about this beforehand. Okay, we literally just share the topic and then we go through the episode live
We
with you
free
guys. But
fly.
absolutely, but I say this because, man. So last week, obviously, I shared the fact that I've got all these fitness goals that I'm wanting to achieve and what I'm going to be doing on a daily basis in order to get there. And my plan this week was to really knuckle down and, just hit the ground running. And I was going to work out 3-4 times a day. And it was just going to be amazing. And I was going to eat healthy and. Get into this week. And I've just been going for walks on the beach. That's been it. But here's where it gets interesting. When I started to check in with myself again, like you said, like having that dialogue, right? Recognizing that Rome was not built in a day.
Right.
I realized that I actually had emotional pushback to what I wanted to do. And as I always say to my clients, emotions are just communications from the soul. That's all they are. Use them as such. So I went, okay, well, what is my soul trying to tell me? And I looked at it and I was like, I think my soul doesn't want to actually do this intense workout regimen because it doesn't sound like fun. And I'm all about having fun. In my work that I do, I work hard, but I enjoy the work I do, right? I have fun with it. When I cook, I'm having fun. My whole day is just always fun for me, right? And if it's not, I start to get a little bit out of alignment. So when I looked at it again, I'm like, okay, so what do I want to do? So obviously, like I said, I've been going for walks on the beach and that's been nice. But equally, this entire week, I have noticed that I have not once felt like going to the pub for a beer. That has not come up for me at all.
Nice.
So already I'm going, right. So there's been a shift without me even realizing it. That started. Okay. Then the domino effect of that is because now I'm not going to the pub and having alcohol, I'm then not craving fatty foods because toxins are fat soluble. So that's why you always crave a greasy breakfast the next day because your body trying to get rid of the toxins in itself. So now I'm not craving the fatty foods. So instead, I'm having very healthy. I made myself the most incredible fish curry the other day that is just so beautiful and so tasty and fresh, and it was beautiful to make and even better to eat. And so much so that I've been eating it every night this week, and I'm still loving it.
That sounds good.
It's so good. It really is. I'll give you the
Just made
recipe
me
another
think.
day.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. I cannot wait till we sit down and share a meal together. I cannot wait.
Oh, it's gonna be amazing. It's gonna be a gastronomical extravaganza, I swear.
Yes.
Between you, myself, and your husband and my
Yes.
spouse, gosh, we're all into food, so it's gonna be insane.
Yes.
But that was the one thing I noticed. And then today I woke up and I had the craving, and I literally put some time aside in my calendar later on today because I really want to do a short yoga session. I've
Nice.
taken out my yoga mat, I think 4 times in the last month, and it sits behind my desk and doesn't move. Today, I just know what's going to happen because I'm not going to try and do an hour-long session. I'm going to do what my body wants to do, which is 15 to 20 minutes. And that's fine. And tomorrow, I'll probably do a little bit longer, or I'll do a different workout, or I'll do 2 together. But I can feel how just that initial commitment to my physical growth and that inward compassion has shifted my mindset
Yeah.
to create a new paradigm around that. Is it as fast as I maybe wanted it to be? No. Is it what I need it to be? Yes, absolutely it is.
Yeah. And this is such again, a beautiful example so that when people hear, and you and I talk about this, I mean, at the moment, because we're in a very creative state, I'm up at 6 a.m. I go to bed at, 12:30 at night because I'm just full of happiness and joy and creative energy. But now it's also coming into the back of my mind to get back into my morning meditation. And I personally have had a challenge with this because of the hours that are all booked up. And because you and I don't talk just to talk. We really
No.
are passionate about letting everyone know these are our challenges. This is what we're going through, why we're creating and really wanting to create legacy and really so deeply from our hearts and our souls want to really shift the human condition and elevate. And we do this because we're transparent and we're honest and we share with you our moments of what we're going through. So same thing. I'm like, I cannot at the moment, and partly, yes, that is a choice and a mindset, but because of my scheduling, just take an hour every morning and meditate. But I can take 15 minutes and just sit and nurture my mind and feed my soul and let my body be at that state of residency to start vibrating higher so that I do tap into that inner knowledge, so that I do bring my highest and best when we go into our podcast. And that shows me that my mind can condition the behavior. I can have positive influence on how I have relationship with self, because if I didn't do that, I could not authentically come into our community and express, right? Well, you do this, but I'm not doing that. Small steps, little. So if it's, well, I can't make it to the gym for an hour and do this workout, take a 15-minute walk before your cup of coffee or when you
Yep.
have a lunch break. Or I did this for years. I had friends that went out to lunch during the day all the time, and half of them would have a drink and big desserts and go back to work, and they'd be exhausted at 3 in the afternoon. Me, I would bring my lunch. I would sit in my car. I would listen to my tapes. I would educate myself. I would eat a salad, my fruit, whatever, and then I'd go for a walk. And everyone used to say to me, well, blah, blah, whatever they're, and I would be like, well, I'm lean, I'm mean, I'm in shape, I'm educating myself, I'm advancing, I'm going for my goals. I am not taking that time. So look at where you have moments, just moments throughout your day, even if you're folding laundry, but you can just sit for a moment, take a few deep breaths, just connect to the power of your mind. Connect to the inner being that knows what's best for you. Say hello and begin this beautiful new connection and relationship to self. And all of what we are imparting to you, the guidance, the coaching, the mentorship, the community building, will begin to support you in your new journey.
I could not have said it better myself. I think I want to just wrap up with what both Laura and myself were saying there. Do not think that you have to be committed for 3, 5, 6 hours a day with meditation and working out and. If 15 minutes is all you have time for, take those 15 minutes, especially at the outset, right? So for me, for myself right now, recognizing, yes, again, and I've been down this rodeo a few times, but recognizing yet again that the small beginnings really do add up if you are consistent.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. I mean, actually, case in point is our podcast, right? We
Yes.
started off with once a week.
Yeah.
We've now escalated to 3-4 times a week. We're going to 5 times a week.
Yes.
There's bigger things that we're planning. And
Yeah.
it started out with a tiny little interview that you and I did last year, same time. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane that is how it all started. We just started with short little interviews that I would do with you. Fast forward, and it's now becoming this amazing movement. And it's the same thing with our wellness.
Yeah.
If you are struggling with, like, one of my friends, she drinks, I think she said 4 to 5 liters of Coca-Cola a day.
Oof.
I know. And she knows. And she's like, it's literally my only vice. She's like, I don't have sugar in anything else. I eat healthy. She doesn't really exercise, and she smokes. So those are the only 2 things. And she doesn't drink. And I said to her, well, do you want to stop? And she says, yes, but I've tried in the past and it never works. I said, well, have you tried just cutting it down by 200 mils? And she goes, 200 mils? I'm like, just try it. Take 5 liters and have that every day, but drop it by 200 mils. So 4.8 liters per day for the first week. And then the next week, drop it by 300 mils. So now it's 4.5. The next week, drop it by half a liter. Now it's not these huge jumps. It's incremental. She called me up the other day. She says, you won't believe it. I went a whole week without touching Coke. Didn't think it would ever.
Fabulous.
Right? So when she had a glass on the weekend, and she was like, it actually didn't taste as I thought it. I thought it was going to be like this wonderful reward, and it wasn't. It just didn't taste like I thought it was going to. And now
I'm going to say,
real
quick, because I know we have to go into our tarot and our reading. This is what happens when you stop, when you let go of protecting the negative pattern, and you begin to be protective of the wholeness of who you are. The body will respond. It knows its natural state of where it should be.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And taking the pressure off as well.
Yes.
Just enjoying the journey. We keep talking about that journey, and that's what's important.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the time, and we could carry on talking about this for hours, I'm sure.
I know.
But okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today. I did see one of my best friends actually sent us some love right at the outset.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Keenan, for that. He actually messaged me this morning. He says, when is your next podcast? Because I've been watching them over the weekend, but I want to catch one live. So
wonderful
to be on today. So,
thank you.
But I just wanted to say, as always, please do have a look at the links in the description. You'll be able to book some time with both Laura and myself for a free coaching session. The link to buy Laura's book is always in the description as well. And if you're enjoying these podcasts, as we know you are, please do pop us a like and subscribe so that you can always stay up to date on when we're launching new episodes.
And share, help build the community, help build the movement, be a part of something empowering.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And we will be back in, 30 seconds for the tarot reading and empowerment quote for the coming week. Have a great day, everyone. Great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.